Welcome to She Shares, our very special edition for this 2020 election. We are so excited today to bring you this panel of extraordinary women who have been firsts in their class in many ways. I want to first thank all of our amazing sponsors. Without you, none of this would be possible. So for all of you, and you can see on the screen, year after year, returning to support this program means the world to us. So thank you very much. Here at She Shares, we're known for our mentorship program, and today's guests have been mentors of mine almost my entire adult life. You'll find, I think that they'll be mentors to you as well. So without further ado, let me introduce in alpha order our guests. First of all, Congresswoman Karen Bass, who is now serving in her 5th term from California's 37th Congressional District. She has led the nation from California on many issues, including foster care and the United States' relationship with Africa. She is the chairwoman of the Congressional Black Caucus, and this year she landed at the very top of the list as Vice President Biden was selecting his vice presidential candidate. Congresswoman Bass also served as the first African-American woman in history to head up a legislative body when she was the Speaker of the California Assembly, where she navigated our state through the toughest economic crisis since the Great Depression at that time. And while she was leading California, the next guest, Governor Jennifer Granholm, was leading Michigan. Jennifer was the first woman governor of Michigan. She served 2 terms. She was nationally recognized and praised for her leadership of the auto crisis during its existential challenges in that state. And she was a pioneer and continues to be a pioneer for the use of renewable energy, especially in transportation. Governor Granholm is a lawyer, an author, a lecturer at University of California, Berkeley, and a CNN commentator. Thank you for being here. And speaking of media and communications, our 3rd guest today is the wonderful Dee Dee Myers. Dee Dee was the first woman White House press secretary during the Clinton administration, and she's been a trailblazer ever since. Dee Dee is a New York Times best-selling author of Why Women Should Rule the World. She's the inspiration for the White House press secretary C.J. Clegg on the West Wing, and she just ended a 5-year tenure as the head of corporate communications for the century-old Warner Brothers. We are so honored to have all of you, Congresswoman Bass, Governor Granholm, Dee Dee Myers, to be moderated in this conversation about this wacky presidential election by the legendary California political reporter and Politico lead, Carla Marinucci. Carla's been breaking news on California governors and the state for decades, and we are honored to have you here, Carla. So I'm going to turn it over to you to take it away.
Thank you so much, Karen. And thanks to all our wonderful sponsors, SheShare sponsors. I am here with these groundbreakers today. I am so excited to be able to talk about, as you said, this wacky election. 15 days. I can't call it an election day. It is now an election season. 15 days until perhaps we might see history again, glass ceiling broken with Kamala Harris. So let me start out asking you all to set the table here and give me just briefly your thoughts. What's keeping you up at night as this election closes out? What do you think are the defining issues that are going to make or break it for your party, each of you, the Democrats, in this election? Let me start with you, Congresswoman Bass. What's keeping you up at night?
What keeps me up at night is voter suppression, no question, and the nth degree to which they will go to voter suppression. That is absolutely, and in terms of the number one, number two, and number three issues, it's COVID, and making the connection between we have got to resolve the virus before the economy will come back completely. And one last thing, one other thing that's keeping me up, violence after the election. That's keeping me up.
Yeah, we want to talk about that. We're going to get into several issues. Governor Granholm, go next, and then and Dee Dee, then I want to hear from you on this.
Yeah, I agree with Congresswoman Bass, clearly voter suppression. And I am also concerned about the success, I'll just say this, that Republicans have had vis-a-vis Democrats in terms of voter registration. And I'm concerned that because they've been going door to door during COVID, they've been much more active. Although Democrats started out with an advantage, they have eaten into that advantage a bit, not totally, but a bit. And so that concerns me, as well as what's under the hood of the internet. What is happening that is going to affect mobilization, in addition to voter suppression, right? It's going to affect mobilization among those who might be infrequent voters who might be inspired by Donald Trump. And issue-wise, it's clearly
right. Dee Dee, what about you?
Yeah, I totally agree with both Congresswoman Bass and Governor Granholm, but I would add to that two things. One is the polls are only as good as the models on which they're based, right? And this is such an unusual election that it's hard to know who's going to turn out and then whose votes are going to be counted. Not only is voter suppression a problem, but the processes around counting those votes and validating those votes and then, confirming those to Congress, to the House, as the states are required to do, is a complicated process that will be even more complicated in this environment. So I worry about all of those things. I think there's zero chance that Donald Trump concedes. I don't think that's the same as him not leaving office, but he'll never concede, which will keep his base riled up, increasing possibilities of things like violence or tampering with the results, or not even tampering. I don't even mean it would necessarily be illegal, but complex legal fights about which votes should be counted. So those are among my concerns. There's so many things to talk about, but I do think COVID and healthcare are the two big issues, and the economy coming in third, which cuts a little bit both ways for us. So, but I think, one of the bright spots is people are not only voting early, they're voting with their wallets. And for the first time in a long time, Democrats are crushing Republicans in fundraising. So that's a little bit of a silver lining.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, 24.2 million voters already. That's 17 times the rate of 2016 at the same time. I want to go to what the big event that's happening this week, the debate, the last and final debate on Thursday. We saw Trump's game plan for the first debate, which was to interrupt Joe Biden repeatedly. Let me go to you first, Governor Granholm, since you're a TV, you're out there analyzing on TV every day. If you're Christian Welker, the moderator, how do you keep that from happening? Is that going to be the game plan again? And I want to hear from both of you, Congressman and Dee Dee, on what needs to be Joe Biden's, game plan going into this last and final debate.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from you, Carla, on what you would do as a moderator when you've got a bulldog that will not shut up and you don't have a mute button. I don't know how you get there. I just don't know. Savannah Guthrie, I thought was great in going after that was a town hall as opposed to a one-on-one debate. And of course, as you know, as anybody who's been on TV, which all of you have, if you've got somebody in your ear, whether it's a producer or Donald Trump yelling at you off to the side, it is so hard to get a coherent thought out and tune him out entirely. But that is exactly what Joe Biden has to do. He has got to sell his program. I thought he did a marvelous job in the town hall this week because you got to hear substance. It was like a balm for the soul. And for folks who were flipping back and forth, you could see one belligerent, lying son of a gun, and then you turn over to Joe Biden and you see somebody who is caring and compassionate and is sticking around talking to these voters. So I think just be Joe Biden. And if there's anything I would suggest is, can you just tune him out and let Kristen Welker do her thing? What would you do, Carla? Just quickly. I know everybody's going to answer that question, but I was curious.
I think you have to just lay out, hey, you agreed to these rules. We're going with the rules. And you have to do it from the very beginning. That's my, Dee Dee, what would you say? You've been in the box there.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think Savannah Guthrie did as good a job as anyone has done, both keeping, never letting him get to her, rattle her, get her off of her game. She was really steady. She kept coming back to him. So I think Kristen Welker, who we all know, who's great, it's a very tough job. So she needs to be persistent with him. I know that there's some commission rules, the debate commission rules, that you're not supposed to follow up. I say, forget it. I mean, Donald Trump ignores the rules, and the commission has not covered itself in glory. So I think Kristen Welker should feel very free to follow up, to call balls and strikes, to call facts and fiction, and to try to hold him accountable. That probably won't go very well, but I think that should be her strategy. For Biden, I think he should just do what he did. He should ignore Trump and talk to the American people. And I think he should try not, it's very hard not to want to call him a clown or, but I think he should just stay away from the insults, talk to the American people, keep it focused on policy, keep it focused on what he's going to do, and let the clown have the clown show to himself.
And Congressman Bass, is there concern from some Democrats that Biden is sort of too low key in these events? You've got this one guy who's out there, energized, on the attack, and then Biden is kind of empathetic, but is that too low key? I've heard some Democrats express that concern.
I've actually not heard that. I think the most important thing for Biden to do is to be presidential, something that Trump has no ability to be. And I think Savannah Guthrie is the model. I also think that he is truly incapable of any other type of behavior. And I think that when Biden looked at the camera, spoke to the American people, talked about what he is going to do is the most important thing. And I agree with Dee Dee, although I'm sure that is just so hard.
Yeah.
Congressman, I got to ask you this, though. I think we all want to know this. You were on the short list. You were on Biden's short list. What was it like being on the short list? I mean, were distant relatives calling you up and saying, "Hey, remember me"? Did you have to look at Twitter every day and wonder who was going to be on the back? Just give us a minute on that. What that experience was like.
Well, I thought it was a tremendous honor, and I didn't think it was this awful thing. I mean, I've heard it was, the colonoscopy without anesthesia or whatever. I mean, I knew what I was going to be hit with, and I just thought it was an incredible honor. And in terms of extended family and friends in California and LA, people were just blown away. And they were very excited watching the whole thing. But I am thrilled at Kamala Harris. And I think she has done an amazing job. I loved watching the debate. And I also loved to see her on Rachel when she admitted that she saw the fly.
Can I just add, though, that it was a privilege to watch you, Congresswoman, go through that process. Your dignity, your wonderful story. I think all Californians were really inspired. I know I was. I tweeted at you. But anyway,
Yes, you did.
you handled yourself beautifully.
Thank you.
Speaking of Kamala, what do you all make of the fact that President Trump and many of the Republicans just seem unable to pronounce her name or unwilling to pronounce her name? What is that about? Can anybody want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is completely intentional. That is just a way to minimize her. The thing that's great about Kamala is that they haven't come up with really a strategy to hit her. They don't know what to do. And so the fact that they resort to her name, I think just shows that there is no there there.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know who that works with. It's absolutely intentional. It's dismissive and diminishing. That's the intention. Right. I just don't think in 2020 there's a single person who's not already a Trump voter who finds that either funny or persuasive.
Right.
He's not. I mean, Trump's been completely unwilling and unable to expand the map or the electorate for himself. So I just don't understand strategically what. And it's other people too. I mean, Purdue and others have sort of joined the crazy show. But I don't understand it as a strategic question. Like, how does this help you with people that you might want to persuade? You know, suburban women, college-educated whites, and older people who aren't already for you. Like, help explain that to me.
Don't you think so? I think it's a pure base play in terms of expanding the number of people who are unlikely voters who would be inclined to be moved by something like that. People who resonate to othering people, racists, etc., people who might not be participating, but now they're going to be participating. You notice where he's been over the past weekend. He's been to states where the registration deadline is just imminent. Today is the registration deadline in a number of states, 15 days before. He's been in states where he can use these rallies as a way of being a voter registration drive. So my guess is that he really wants to expand the numbers of the white non-college voters who might be persuaded by that. Since they would, if they were eligible, they're a large part of the electorate.
But
that's a good
Governor,
point.
Let me I mean, and let me ask you all this. Right now, Trump has a very aggressive campaign schedule going. He was just here in California yesterday at Newport Beach. That was a fundraiser. But bottom line is, Joe Biden has a lid all week long. There's some criticism there. Trump is answering a lot more questions from the media, including he did it recently with us here in Sacramento. Is there an Achilles heel there with Joe Biden in that he hasn't been out there as much? Yes, there's a pandemic, but let me get your thoughts. Didi, let me start with you.
I think, first of all, Biden is outspending Trump massively on television, and so he's appearing everywhere. He's outspending him 3-1 in some of the key states, I think, including Michigan governor. And so I think he's using television and other media, not just digital and other, to reach voters directly with a large variety of ads. And I think, I probably would like to see him out there a little bit more. But on the other hand, Trump is out there. Don't ever, like rule one of politics is don't get in the way of your opponent when they're, shooting yourself in the foot every day. So let Trump have the stage. He can prepare for the debate, rely on paid media for the next couple of days, and then let Thursday speak for itself. The long tail on the first debate is that Trump did not do well, right? The longer people have sort of sat with the bullying and the lying, the more negative they feel about it. So I'd say I'm okay. Like, let's just keep Biden safe. Let's keep him on message. Let's not be too you don't want to be too cautious in the last lap here. But nonetheless, play your own game. Be strategic. Be smart, and don't let Donald Trump drive decision making.
And by the way, I totally agree with you, Didi. And I think, when you look at the ratings for these town halls this past week, there is Trump fatigue. Biden got, even though it was a more subdued town hall, which you would think would not get the eyeballs, people are so fed up with this guy that I think he's overexposed. Whereas, as you know, Biden is spending a lot. I also think that he's preparing, again, for this debate. Give me a prepared Joe Biden for a debate any day rather than going to small events in states.
And you know something
Carla,
else? Biden,
yeah, go ahead.
Can I just mention one other thing? Biden has surrogates. Biden has people to campaign for him. Trump has no one. No one. He has to do it all at our expense.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, because this is the week where the Trump campaign has put out there this whole Hunter Biden story. As you know, Governor Granholm, I think the news today was that Fox News actually passed on that story. They didn't think it was solid enough, but now they've been amplifying it quite a bit. Is this story going to have any, Stephanopoulos got criticized for not bringing it up at all in his town hall. What do you make of that story, and what does Biden need to say about it, if anything? Congressman, let me start with you.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Well, remember his own DOJ, even though the AG has signed up as his personal attorney, but even he couldn't come back with anything. So I'm at least glad that Fox passed on it. Although the Fox shows I've seen, Tucker Carlson, the really nutty ones, they've been reporting on it regardless. But I mean, his own department passed on it. So that's why Barr is falling out of favor.
Yeah. Governor, did you wanted to say something on it?
Yeah, I was just going to say that they're so desperately hoping that this is a redux of 2016, and it is simply not. If the FBI is looking at this as Rudy Giuliani being a Russian asset, and whether these are fake or not, I mean, it's too, and we all know that the Post is also owned by Rupert Murdoch. So, I mean, this is all part of the right-wing ecosystem that is, again, going just to that part of the base, and it's not going to transcend and cross over. And I'm really grateful, frankly, for the media, the mainstream media, who are saying, look, there is some shred of integrity to this profession, and we will not be amplifying things that we know are Russian propaganda, which this is.
Right. And I would just add that people have seen Joe Biden. He's been in public life for 47 years, as we've heard Trump say. And the one thing they believe about him is that he's an honest person, right? Nobody's perfect, but he's an honest. They just don't believe that he's a corrupt, lying, self-aggrandizing, family enriching, deceiver. They're just not going to get there. That's Trump, right? They know that, and they can see the difference. So, yeah, I agree with what both of you have said.
And Dee, do you see a difference from now to the Hillary Clinton campaign? I'd like to, all of you. When the media covered the emails sort of incessantly, that doesn't seem. Have you seen a shift this time around with regard to how the campaign is being covered? Because you're right. We're not seeing this story amplified by the mainstream media because many of them say it's just not there. What have we learned about the way the media handles it?
I mean, I think that part of it was that the email story, while grossly overplayed, was, there was there, right there. Whether you thought it rose to the level of being the obsessive through line of the entire campaign or not, and most of us are in the or not category, there was at least some truth there, and the media just would not let it go, and it was something that Trump could successfully keep bringing up. The other problem for Hillary, and we all scratch our heads at it, but she had a tough kind of the public just did not love her, right? She was underwater throughout the entire campaign in her favorability. She was sort of at 45 favorable, 55 unfavorable, whereas Biden's the opposite. He's sort of at plus 50 favorable. And so I think, the media, there's so much, we could do a whole 3 hours on the media that covers politics, but first of all, their clickbait is like the most important. And Carla, sorry, I don't mean to, but we could have this conversation. Whatever's driving engagement is what they'll cover. Whatever's the scandal of the day is what they'll cover. And Biden just hasn't given them a lot in the scandal department. Some people think it's a little bland. It's a little, but there's just not a lot of there, and so I don't think the media is different. I just think the context, history, stories around the candidates is different.
Yeah, yeah. Governor, you want?
Yeah, just two quick points. One is I am really grateful that at least Twitter and Facebook are starting to step up in terms of stopping the misinformation. And second, the really interesting part of this story to me, if it's true, I mean, who knows? But there was part of this dump of material included these emails from Joe Biden to his son, and one of the emails was when Hunter was in the rehab facility. Again, I don't even know if it's true, but the email had Joe Biden saying, "Good morning, my beautiful son. I love you, Dad." I mean, anybody who's had addiction in their family, who've had children it's so relatable and so human that if that's what they're shopping around as being detrimental to Joe Biden, showing that he has a heart and he's a loving father and the family is human, I just don't think that has many legs.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely right. And when you're talking about the way the media is handling stories, I wanted to get to Trump and one of the headlines that came out this morning with regard to the COVID situation. I wanted to hear your thoughts on this. We heard Trump in a staff call this morning call Dr. Fauci an idiot, and basically saying that firing him, he's the bomb on television, but firing him would be more of a bomb. I think that would be a great question for Christian Welker, by the way, at the debate. Will you fire Fauci if you're reelected? But what his COVID handling? There he is out there this week in packed again rallies, basically saying it's going to go away. Congresswoman, what do who is he hoping to attract in these final days? How is this playing as we have another 2,000 that died over the weekend here in the States? I mean, your thoughts?
Well, I think that's going to help us get to a decisive victory on November 3rd. I mean, by the time of the election, there will be more than 250,000 people who've died. I think about that every single day, especially as a former medical person. And at this point in time, most of us know somebody who has either been sick or who has died, or know multiple people who have. And so we know this is really hurting him with the seniors. And I think that's absolutely critical. And now you're seeing it go through the Midwest. So I think the only people that makes it with are people who are the deniers like he is. And some of those very deniers are getting sick.
Yeah. Governor, go ahead.
Yeah, I think this strategy of going to these maskless debates in states where you see a spike in COVID, maybe it's fine in terms of politically for the people who go to those rallies, but for everybody else, they're like, get the hell out of here. You are a super spreader. It's the stupidest strategy I could possibly imagine. And he's going to continue to do it. He's on his way to Arizona today. You don't think the seniors in Arizona are going to say, if they're not at the rally, get out of here, buddy. It's stupid.
And right. Dee Dee, as somebody who worked inside the White House, there is his staff with him, his press secretary. She's with him. We saw her here in Sacramento, right? Maskless on the tarmac with him. How do you think it's playing inside the White House? I mean, what do you think is happening there as it goes on with the staff in there?
That's a great question. And have we seen Kayleigh McEnany back in the saddle, right, since she got COVID? I don't.
No, but we have seen Hope Hicks. I think. Yeah, actually, we have. We have seen.
Is she back? I try not to get too much attention to her.
She said she tested negative.
Got it. So, I think what we're hearing, right, and sort of secondhand, because I don't have any close relationships, but that people are. Particularly the most senior people are obviously enablers, and they've been denying the truth around Trump for quite a while. It's the people who are in the secondary positions who don't have the ability to say no to him, or they have to show up and work when they're told. The permanent staff at the White House, from the military aides and the teams that run operations and the mess and all of those military-driven services, to the permanent staff, the uniformed Secret Service agents who have to be there, regular the other Secret Service agents, all the day-to-day staffers who are working in various capacities. You hear that they're really angry, as well they should be, because Trump clearly does not care about their health and well-being. His own son was tested positive. I mean, he wasn't even willing to take steps to protect his own child, and I was really that was very, very significant to me. Not that I thought he cared about anybody else, but not even his own younger son. So I think the White House staffers feel the same way: exposed, uncared for, and angry.
I have to ask you this question. I'm going to veer off a little bit, because if I was having a glass of wine with you, I'd be asking you this question. So here goes. You've been a White House press secretary. Kayleigh McEnany, her performance, of course, she gets a lot of criticism because she actually criticizes the media. But I'm going to go to her fashion. This sort of endless parade of sundresses. I'm wondering, you as White House press secretary, could you have gotten away with that? What is up with that? Is this a generational thing, or is this the Fox newsification of the White House press?
It's the Fox newsification. One day I got a text from a former Obama chief of staff, who shall remain nameless, saying, "You would have been fired if you showed up to brief in that outfit," right? I mean, which was kind of a joke, but it's the Foxification. You guys, if you've been on Fox, you did it periodically, 15 years ago. I stopped doing it because at 7 o'clock in the morning, they wanted to put false eyelashes on me to go do a news hit at 7 a.m. That didn't happen at NBC or ABC. So that we've just seen that carried to its logical extreme with sort of cocktail attire at the podium on a daily basis, which, look, the Republican base loves it. She's an attractive woman, and I'm sure she will be a celebrity in Republican circles for the rest of her life. But for the rest of us, it's a little bit of a head scratcher.
This goes to the suburban women, the women issue with Trump. You saw him all at the recent rally saying, "Suburban women, please like me." Let me start with you, Governor Granholm. Well, we know that white women voted for Trump in the last election. Women overall did not. How is he going to do this time with white women and women overall?
Yeah, it's funny. I lead a project that's happening in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania in rural and exurban areas. We are going after the elusive Obama-Trump voter in 77 counties. And the women, by 57%, are leading the lessening of his margins in those non-college white areas. Because women, bless us, we see this guy for what he is, this megalomaniac. I mean, the testosterone, all of that, it's such BS. And I think women, especially senior women, they are all about it. My mom, a former Republican, voted Republican all of her life. This time she's like, that guy is the worst thing I've ever seen. So I think that women are really coming around. And if he lost seniors last time in Florida by, I think, 17%. I think this time it's going to be even or better for Joe Biden because of women.
And Congresswomen, Black women, as we know, most reliable voters there are in the Democratic Party. But Trump, one of his strategies is peeling off Black men. We've seen Ice Cube, for instance. What? Kanye West. I said Ice Cube. Isn't he from your district, by the way? I don't know. But the bottom line is, are Black women, are they some of the pictures of those voters who are waiting there in Georgia and some of these southern states? Is that going to make the difference? What do you make of that aspect of the election?
Oh, I think Black women are very energized. I will say in 2016, it was 88% of Black women voted for Hillary. And I think that energy is still there. I think that he will not be able to peel off Black men, especially using Kanye. I mean, and I'm not going to go there beyond that. But I will tell you that where Ice Cube is coming from, and I'm certainly engaging him. I think
Ah,
it's important that we bring people in and talk to them about what we're doing. Now, one of my many hats, as you mentioned, is chairing the Congressional Black Caucus. And I think that it's incumbent upon us, and frankly, all elected officials, is to show people what they get for their vote. And so we have been spending a lot of time in the CBC doing calls all around the country, talking about the policies that we are working on specifically, the policies we have won. And of course, you know that we spent a good part of the summer around the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act.
yeah.
But we've also been leading the effort around COVID and fighting for specific targeted interventions where you have a disproportionate death rate. We've been doing it, by the way, lockstep with the Hispanic caucus, the Asian caucus, and the Native Americans.
And I know when we talk about COVID and California, Dee Dee, you've worked with Governor Gavin Newsom, and so have you, Governor Granholm. I mean, all of you have. He hasn't been outright critical of President Trump. They seem to have a working relationship. But let's start with you, Dee Dee, in terms of why does Trump keep going back to California, keep dunking on blue state governors, including California? He mentions it on a regular basis with regard to voter fraud and other issues. What do you think the relationship is between him and Gavin Newsom?
Well, as you all know, the state intersects with the federal government in many places, particularly in times of crisis, right? So whether it's the COVID crisis, the economic crisis that ensued as a result, or our terrible wildfire season, many parts of the federal government were reliable partners for the state and provided help when the governor asked, and including at times the president. I don't think I could hold my tongue if I was governor, the way that Governor Newsom has sometimes done. But he did, as we saw just a couple of days ago. The FEMA denied additional assistance to California in the aftermath of these deadly fires. The governor picked up the phone and called the president, and the president reversed it. And so there have been some benefits to it. At the same time, let's not forget, the state of California has more than 100 lawsuits against the federal government. The state is actively engaged in pushing back on a policy level. Obviously, Governor Newsom endorsed Vice President Biden, has been trying to be helpful as he can while still managing these multiple crises here. So again, I don't think I could show the restraint that the governor has, but I think given all the complex demands on the state right now, I think he feels like that's the path that he has to walk.
Yeah, Governor Granholm, as a former governor, is Newsom handling this, juggling this? Give me your.
I feel for him because obviously it would be his natural instinct would be, of course, to come out verbally and aggressively against him. But Trump holds all of these cards, and he doesn't want to hurt California residents because he gets some satisfaction off of spouting off against Trump. So I think he's really trying to walk that fine line. I mean, we see what's happened in Michigan, right? So Gretchen Whitmer has criticized Donald Trump, even though she was the victim herself of a kidnapping and potential murder plot. And he goes after her again. He goes after her relentlessly, which increases the threat level against her continually. So, I just think, I mean, those are two different issues, obviously, but I think Gavin Newsom is really trying to do what's best for California and for Californians.
Yeah. Congresswoman, you want to add to that? What's your thoughts?
No, I've been very proud of the governor. I think he has absolutely handled it to the best of his abilities. And just the state in general. Our state legislature has absolutely been leading the day and been passing legislation and trying to oppose legislative priorities of the Trump administration. And I was glad to see that he reversed it.
We got some really good questions from the audience. that I want to share with you. I love this one. Election aside, how is each of you personally coping during this pandemic? What is helping you stay sane? Let me start with you, Dee Dee. How are you sane?
Well, at the risk of sounding a little trite, I got a Peloton. And it
Oh,
has been a lifesaver. So I have been riding that damn bike, doing my meditation, my yoga. I know many of my friends have done the same thing, and it has been a lifesaver. I think the other thing is just it's been hard on everybody, and I have a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old, and it's been challenging on them, and I think it's also been a little bit of a gift to be able to spend more time with both of them at a time when they would naturally be pulling away. So, and then I think as much as we all get tired of Zoom, being able to Zoom with our friends and family, what a lucky intersection, and what a lucky thing for Zoom investors, but that technology became scalable right at the moment when the world needed it most.
yeah. Governor Granholm, let me go to you, and then Congresswoman. What's keeping you sane?
Yeah, I mean, I do my elliptical too. I live in Oakland now, so the fires have been really problematic for walking outside, right? At least over during the heat wave, et cetera. But indoors is good. But honestly, what keeps me sane is being completely obsessed about doing everything possible to get Joe Biden elected. That if I feel like if I can continue to do whatever little part I can to move the ball forward, then I feel like I will have not left anything on the bench. It will all be on the floor, and that keeps me sane.
That's fascinating. Okay, Congresswoman, what about you?
Well, I would agree. I'm glad you're with us, Governor. I didn't know you were in California now. That's wonderful. We can claim you.
Yeah, Oakland are like my
Well, I agree. Having the honor to serve the people and fighting every day. I mean, I have been obsessed around COVID, no question, because it is just so frightening to me, the death rate and the fact that the data is being hidden from us. I know there's a disproportionate rate, but we don't really know who of those 220,000, how that, breaks down. So that and staying focused, my eyes on the prize. I'm extremely excited by all of the level of activity, the activism, the early vote, the historic numbers that are out there. So 15 days away. Now, at the end of it all, I like to swim and I like to bike ride, and I do those things to keep my sanity.
That's good. Here's another great question. Do you have Republican friends who have supported Trump? And if so, how have you been able to maintain civility through the past 4 years? I actually know families who have broken up over this. You probably have too. Friends. Governor, you got any Republican friends?
As I say, my mom has flipped. My dad died earlier this year, and he was a Trump voter. So when he died, my mom felt the freedom, I think, to move in the other direction where she might have otherwise been naturally inclined. My brother is a maniac right-winger, and there's just nothing that can be said. So honestly, I just cannot talk to him. Otherwise, I will create a permanent rift. And my circle of friends, I just don't know. None of them voted for Trump. That's because I'm pretty picky.
Dee Dee, what about you?
I honestly, I have Republican friends, and my father is a fairly conservative Republican. None of them is for Trump. None of my Republican friends are voting for Trump. Some of them may have that they didn't confess, but now they're almost all Republican voters against Trump, or their Lincoln Club, Lincoln Project. And so I don't know how I would handle being in a close personal friendship with somebody who was for Trump. I wish I could say that I had actually tried it and found a way to at least live through it, but I haven't.
Yeah. And Congresswoman, what about you?
I live with them. We serve together.
Yeah.
And so to me, I keep my eyes on the prize. I mean, I just finished doing bipartisan legislation, criminal justice reform related to pregnant women who are incarcerated. Got a lot of Republican support. My Republican colleagues that support Trump. Kevin McCarthy's a friend of mine. I mean, you compartmentalize. But I do want all of us to think about this. The minute this guy leaves the stage, you watch how quickly people say, Trump, I always thought he was a problem. You watch. And so I see life after Trump. And then also just think a couple of years down the line when all of the investigations happen and we find out the depths of the corruption, the depths of the criminal behavior that has taken place with this family and this administration. So I see the day that he goes off stage. He did threaten to leave the country, so we need to encourage that.
But there are a number of questions I have to tell you from people who are worried about the aftermath of the election. For instance, who on planet Trump could force a peaceful transfer of power. I've heard from people who say they're watching, for instance, in Oakland, Governor Granholm, some of the businesses already are boarding up, worried about any kinds of demonstrations in the aftermath of the election. What do you say to people who are really, worried? They are losing sleep over this. Let me start with you, Governor Granholm. Are we going to
number one? Yeah, I mean, number one, obviously an overwhelming vote, a lopsided vote will, I think, make this an easier case. Number two, he can deny all he wants, but these local elected officials in all of these states who are nonpartisan folks just wanting to get stuff done, they're not going to rig this election. And so it will be clear by Friday of election week what has happened, hopefully on election night, since Florida gets its results early and is allowed to count those absentee ballots early. If Joe Biden wins Florida, honestly, it's game over. I don't know how Donald Trump is able to recover from that. So if it's clear and decisive, he doesn't have a choice. It may be that his team doesn't cooperate with the transition team. And so the transition team for Joe Biden has to do some surreptitious calling of the folks in the agencies to find out what's going on. But on January 20th, there will be an inauguration, and the military and others are not going to serve a guy who is hanging on to the banisters, not refusing to leave in the White House. It just will not happen.
Yeah. Didi, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that there will be a new president will be sworn, or a president will be sworn in on January 20th. We obviously hope it's Vice President Biden. I don't think that Trump is going away, Congresswoman. I think that like I said, I don't think he'll concede. I don't think that means he won't leave. It just means he won't concede. There will be endless litigation from states over various counties, wherever around issues in the elections process, because we are seeing some major changes from efforts at voter suppression, which may be challenged, to the huge volume of absentee votes and the process around counting those and which ones count, and the naked ballots and signatures matching and all the ways that they may try to undercount or overcount depending on where you are. And so I just think that's going to be very messy. I think Governor Granholm is right. I have fingers crossed that the results will be clear, but the process will be messy, and there'll be and I think Trump is going to leave the White House and keep his base, foaming at the mouth for as long as he possibly can. And he may eventually, and I hope you're right, Congressman, be dragged away in handcuffs. That may be why he's talking about leaving the country, by the way, to avoid potential indictment on multiple criminal charges. But I just think it's going to be messy.
No,
Go ahead.
I agree with you as well. I think that it will be messy, and I was being facetious about him leaving the government because he said leaving the country because he said
No,
that.
no, he did say it, and I think he may be saying it
Yes.
because he's laying the groundwork, right? He's going to have to
Right.
go to Russia, or,
right? Which is really
who else would take him?
because he does have his children that are in as thick as thieves, and so and being thieves. And so I do think that it's going to be messy, but I am holding out for it being decisive with
Yeah,
270. That doesn't mean that he's not going to keep the mess going. But
correct.
what I am the most fearful of, that I said at the very beginning of this call, I'm very fearful of the violence. And frankly, I plan to stay home where I feel safe. I do believe that there's going to be a lot of violence. I think that it might be racially motivated, and I don't think that he controls these folks. I think he's kind of set the tone, and I also agree with the governor. You know, our military has never been political, and when it comes to January 20th, his time expires, period. And so I do continue to be concerned about the violence.
Congresswoman, I know you have to jump off a few minutes early. I just want to get this last question into you. As you know, if Kamala Harris is elected, Governor Newsom picks the U.S. Senator to fill her seat. You've been named on a number of lists, including my own. On that one, would you be interested in that spot?
Well, I mean, I think it's important to look at possibilities. For me, this is also the first time I've seen an administration come together since I came in under Obama, and then there was Trump. So I'm definitely looking to see what's there. But I will tell you, the last thing I would do right now would be to call Governor Newsom. He has enough on his plate, and I wish him well, and I am laser focused on the next 15 days.
Okay, thank you so much. And just generally, I know you may have to jump off it, but I wanted to just get your thoughts, Governor, and Dee as well. Are we ever going to be able to get back to a place where there isn't this anger, public anger, incivility? It just like, whether it's social media or whether it's from the White House at this point, we've gotten used to it. We've got. I mean, is it going to ever? How long is it going to take before we have kind of a peaceful sort of discourse, public discourse again? Governor, let me start with you. Any thoughts?
Before they answer, could I just say I do have to go, and it's such an honor to be here with such fabulous.
Same here.
Thank you
so much. I appreciate it.
Great to see you.
See you.
Yeah.
And last thought, what are we going to be able to get back? Give your message to the people in the last 15 days. Remember, by the way, today's the last day to register in person and online in California. So we want to keep that.
Yes,
What's your final thought? Final thought to the voters.
I do think that we are going to be able to get back to some level of temperature reduction. I do think it's all about leadership. The leader sets the tone. Donald Trump will be off on the side, continuing to do his thing, but I think we are going to be okay with Joe Biden. If he's reelected, no.
Dee, what about, you remember the days, the Clinton days when it didn't seem like the discourse was so incivil. I mean, are we going to be able to get back to an earlier time, a more innocent time? Let me put it that way.
I hope so, but I don't think it's going to happen soon. I think if Vice President Biden wins, and obviously hope he does, and Democrats take the Senate, I think from day one, the Republicans will be allied against the new president, and obviously be helpful to have control of Congress. But I just think it's going to continue a very, very partisan atmosphere, not just in Washington, but around the country, right? I mean, from the day Biden gets elected, if he gets elected, Republicans will be planning his demise and blocking any progress. Now, it'll be helpful, be different if he has the Senate. So he'll be able to get things done, like get justices to lower courts appointed, and maybe the Supreme Court, you never know, pass legislation, do something big, a stimulus. And unfortunately, Congresswoman Bass is gone, but try to get another round of stimulus and some money into the hands of the American people when they desperately need it. So, but I just think we're stuck in this place for a while. Biden will definitely make it better. But we're a deeply divided country.
And Governor, when Dee mentioned the Senate, what do you think? How is the Senate going to flip?
Yeah, I think it is going to flip. The Cook Political Report as of this morning had Democrats picking up between 2 and 7 seats. If we lose Alabama, I hope we don't, but if we do, we have to pick up 4. I think that it's teed up to make sure that Colorado, Arizona, Maine and perhaps North Carolina. But then there's all these reach states like Iowa, Alaska, Montana, Kansas, Georgia, the 2 seats. The opportunities for the Democrats are much greater. I'm going to stand up and let my dog out because she's whining. I'll be right back.
We are. We are. That's awesome.
Did I say something?
Yes, go ahead.
No, I just said, did I say something? Everyone's left.
No. I just wanted to thank both of you.
There's the governor.
And the governor's dog. We're out of time. I mean, we can keep this going forever. And thank you to She Shares and the sponsors and both of you for all you've done in the public discourse and for women. It's just been an honor to be part of this. Thank you so much, both of you. Okay.
Thank you, Carla. Great to see you,
Okay,
Governor.
Carla. Yeah,
right.
Great to see you too, Dean.
And thank you, She Shares. Thanks.